Hey, are you Adam Graham?
The very same. And this is my old-time radio snack wagon.
Welcome to the old-time radio snack wagon, where we serve up a bite-sized portion of old-time radio. And now, here's your snack wagon host, Adam Graham.
Welcome to the old-time radio snack wagon. You know what the news is. In a moment, you're going to hear the rest of the story. With those words, legendary radio broadcaster Paul Harvey began his rest of the story segments where he would share obscure, little-known, and unusual real-life stories that often had a twist ending. When it comes to Paul Harvey, the rest of the story is that while he was the last of the great radio storytellers, he was not the only one. During the golden age of radio, many storytellers, both locally and nationally, filled the airwaves. The quality varied, but there were some very talented ones whose work may remind you of Paul Harvey. The greatest of these was Canadian-born writer and narrator John Nesbitt. Nesbitt's journey began with the death of his father, who left him a trunk containing news clippings of unusual stories from around the world. These clippings sparked Nesbitt's interest and would lead to him ending his first radio series when he was 24 with Headlines from the Past, which premiered in 1935. In 1936, he would begin The Passing Parade, which would be the name that would stick for the rest of his radio career. The Passing Parade would continue to air until 1951 in a variety of forms. Self-contained 15-minute episodes, at some points aired daily, at others weekly. Sometimes the Passing Parade would be a segment on a larger program. I've also read that there was a half-hour version of the Passing Parade, although I've never heard an episode of that. In addition, the Passing Parade became a series of short films, with more than 70 being made on a wide variety of different topics. Nesbitt told all sorts of stories, the strange, unusual, heartbreaking, inspiring, and thought-provoking. One of his best stories was told in wartime. This was part of the Johnson Wax summer program, which featured not only Nesbitt's stories, but the music of Meredith Willson. The original air date is July the 21st, 1942. Let's go ahead and listen.
And here is one of the amazing tales on which John Nesbitt's reputation as a leading storyteller of radio and screen has been based. Tonight, it is the story of a tiny newspaper.
Yes, a tiny newspaper. Small enough to fit into a loaf of bread or be tucked into a peasant's wooden shoe. For to be seen with a copy of it meant prison, and to have anything to do with the publishing of it meant death. Yet the name of the newspaper means life. La Libre Belgique, free Belgium, live Belgium. Tonight, this newspaper is 27 years, 5 months, and 3 weeks old, which means that it was first published on February 1st, 1915. 1915. Belgium conquered by the Germans, hostages shot against walls, newspaper editors hanging from public gallows. Belgium lost, crushed, destroyed. The German armies victorious, unbeatable, triumphant. Then, as now, no one breathed in Belgium but what a German spy looked on. Whenever 3 men talked together, one of them was a spy. Yet, on the morning of February 1st, a pretty Belgian girl appeared at the office of the German governor, left him a perfumed pink envelope. Quite flattered and fancying that it might be a love letter, the governor-general opened it. It wasn't a love letter. Inside was a little newspaper, Volume 1, Number 1, La Libre Belgique, free Belgium, live Belgium. A newspaper that cried out complete loathing for the Germans, blistering contempt for them, gave the facts about their military reverses, gave the news of America's growing sympathy, cried out in every sentence that Germany would one day be destroyed, that Belgium would one day live again. Who was writing the newspaper? Where was it being printed? To the German secret police, this became a nightmare. For every single week, a copy would be delivered to the Governor General himself. He would find it under his desk blotter, stuck into his overcoat pocket, lying on the seat of his car. And week after week, month after month, it went out to 200,000 Belgian people. Every wind began to distribute it, and wherever it found a reader, a man took up hope. In 1916, the Germans employed a celebrated detective from Berlin to discover the hidden press. He analyzed the paper of a copy of La Libre Belgique under the microscope, found fragments of coal dust on it, followed the trail to a cellar far below the streets of Brussels, captured the editor and staff, took them up into the sunlight and shot them, then carefully smashed the press to fragments, melted down every morsel of type. The German governor wired Berlin of his triumph. He called a banquet of officers to celebrate. And at the table, he received an official envelope from Berlin, a message of imperial congratulations. But the envelope had been tampered with a little, and folded around the message was a newspaper. The next edition of La Libre Belgique. It had not missed an issue. Week by week, month by month, it went on. 1916 passed. 12 times the Germans caught the printers and editors. 12 times the shots rang out that ended their lives. 12 times the newspaper sprang up again. The Governor General actually had a nervous breakdown, was sent back to Germany as a completely defeated man. And by 1917, every man and woman in Belgium had read La Libre Belgique. The paper was now being printed in a funeral parlor. Its press was hidden behind a pile of empty coffins. The paper and machinery were smuggled to the editor inside of caskets that were delivered during fake funerals. The sound of the press was drowned out by volunteers who would gather to sing melancholy hymns in the funeral chapel. The 23rd editor was Victor Jourdain. He was an old man, but he could smile, for La Libre Belgique was now being published in the best hiding place it ever had. Yet for the first time, a traitor appeared in the Belgian ranks. The Germans were given a tip. They raided the funeral parlor and leveled it to the ground. In a few hours, Victor Jourdain was dead, and so was La Libre Belgique. That morning, its regular issue did not appear, and its last editor lay dead. That night, the new military governor went to the opera. Lying on his seat in the royal box was a picture of the Belgian flag. The picture was printed on the front page of a newspaper, La Libre Belgique, issue number 143, still wet from the press. There was also on the first page an editorial, and to the undying mortification of the German governor, it was signed by the name of Victor Jourdain, the man who at this moment was dead. Who printed the paper now? The Germans would never know until they were driven back in defeat. But it was the wife of Victor Jourdain who had secretly received the copy from her husband as he lay dying, who had taken it to the last hidden printing press of the underground newspaper, there set it up and printed the entire edition with her own hand. That editorial is one of the bravest pieces of newspaper writing ever printed. And it reads, "You came and took our lands, and laid waste our homes, and called yourselves our masters. But the time will come when we will drive you out again. We will never stop fighting you so long as a single invader remains on our soil." 2 weeks after the Nazi conquerors rode into Belgium in the year 1940, they discovered that an underground newspaper was rousing Belgium to its lost faith, a paper called La Libre Belgique. It goes on tonight, despite all the Nazi Gestapo officers in the land, despite the new punishment of torture before death, despite princely rewards offered by the helpless conquerors. 100 of these secret newspapers are published over Europe now. 100 secret broadcasts weekly to back them up. The Axis conquerors are so nervous over how they receive the news that even this program, innocent as it is and the words I am speaking at this moment are being carefully taken down somewhere by Axis translators and examined to see if this story hides a secret code. But there is no secret here. The news is that America now labors for you, men of Belgium, editors of La Libre Belgique, wherever you are, editors of all the other hidden papers, wherever you are. America works day and night. The armies are growing. The sacrifices are just beginning. But the hour will come when the flags of every free people will fly over their own soil again. Libre Belgique. Free Belgium. Live Belgium. Live, men of courage everywhere.
Welcome back. I've heard this story several times before, and each time it moves me. It's such an incredible and powerful story of courage and the quest for freedom. This story was told at a time when America had a long war ahead of it. Remember, Pearl Harbor would certainly be on the minds of many Americans, but this would be a long slog and would require fresh inspiration for that initial passion to endure. And there were many who tried to offer that inspiration. Some overdid it and over-focused on the war, particularly in 1942. Yet, as a result of this, there was a steady supply of stories of courage and bravery over the air. And not only talking about the current fight, but the ongoing fight for freedom and human dignity throughout history. It's worth noting that Nesbitt had actually narrated a short film about La Libre Belgique that was released in 1941, and it was called Out of Darkness. I wasn't able to find a copy to compare to this radio story. It doubtless had many similarities, though likely the ending was different as the U.S. hadn't entered the war at the time the film was released. Nesbitt told great war stories, but many other great stories as well. He spent his life telling forgotten stories that connected with so many listeners. These days, he's a bit of a forgotten figure, but we hope to hear more of his work on the old-time radio snack wagon and remember the part he played in the great passing parade. It's time for me to close up the old snack wagon, but don't worry, we'll be back with another serving of old-time radio goodness before you know it. If you want to enjoy some of our longer form podcasts, you can feast away at my website at greatdetectives.net. Your emails are also welcome at adam@snackwagon.net.
The Old Time Radio Snack Wagon comes to you from Boise, Idaho. Your host is Adam Graham. Sound production is by Rhines Media, LLC. You can listen to past episodes of the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon as well as connect on social media at our website at snackwagon.net. Email suggestions for episodes to adam@snackwagon.net. This has been the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon.
Until next time, goodbye.